And we are live. Thank you guys for joining us tonight for another episode around the campfire. I've got my co-host Tie Guy Travis Cognito is out on a very important meeting. I'm literally joking. I have no idea what he's doing. I'm just giving you a hard time. But yeah, a very important meeting for very important things. So he could not make it this evening, but he will be back next week, of course. But Travis, man, how you doing? What have you been up to?
I'm doing well. I've been still face down reviewing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, working on another game called Rollerdrome, a preview for that as well. So, doing a lot of work, been very busy just playing games and grinding. Have not gotten to do much Destiny this week, actually, because my deadline is approaching. But I was planning on doing a ton of Iron Banner this week so I can get that Iron Lord
See,
title.
we
And I
got to
don't
get
know
the
if I'm going to
title.
have time.
Oh, I was going to say, I got to get the
Yeah,
title because Cog's all like, where's your title? It's like, I have 12 other titles.
yeah.
Where's your other titles? But now I got to get Iron Lord to make sure I have that one.
Yeah, so, I don't know if I'm gonna have time to do that, but, I do want to do it because, I I haven't played a lot of Crucible this I don't know, am I gonna be one of those guys where I'm working on reviews and coverage so often that I don't get to play the games I want to play? I'm
Are you
just
turning
at the
into,
whim of whatever game I'm
turning into
covering, you know?
Destin? Is this like
I
is
know,
this the curse of IGN?
maybe it's just a blip, I don't know, it's not very often I review, games that are 150 hours plus, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's so hectic, so, yeah.
Well, me, I've finished up Tunic. That game is fantastic, by the
Nice.
way. That game is like, very rarely does a little cute isometric game like challenge you with some like interesting little puzzles. I mean, I had to look up guides for certain points because I was trying to finish it, but I did pretty well though. I think I got all but like 5 pages of the instruction booklet, which if you play it, you'll know what I mean. So I got almost to the final ending, and then I went to go find the other pages, had to go find a couple other things, and then got the real ending. But Tunic is just a fun. I don't think Tunic is on Switch. I think it's Game Pass and Xbox, I believe. I don't know if it's on a lot of other. I know it's coming to
I
PlayStation in
think
the
it's a
fall.
timed exclusive, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's coming to PlayStation sometime in the fall. But I played it on Game Pass for PC, and it was a fantastic little game. I also rolled credits on Neon White. So kind of did
Nice.
both of those in succession. Neon White is like a speedrunner's dream. If you just want to get lost trying to like shave off milliseconds of time, like I know some people could get insanely lost in that one. I was happy to roll credits. I think I got the platinum time, and they give you like a hint when you get to gold, and that'll kind of help you get to platinum. But then I'd go be like, oh, what's somebody do on this level? And they're like 5 seconds faster than me on a 20-second level in the first place. So yeah, there are some crazy people in that game. It's a ton of fun. You can play like a 20-second level here and there, and it's like short little bursts if you want it. So if you need something to fill little gaps, it works really well. But before we get into the world of what Destiny has been up to, we have a special guest joining us all the way over from Hawaii. So welcome to the Last Word episode number 206. Iron Banner is in its final round of 2 this season. Solstice will begin next week, and the heat is in full swing for at least one of us. It's going to be a fun episode tonight because there is mention of currencies in the TWAB, so I can't wait to hear what Travis has to say about that. But before we get to that, we have a special guest joining us tonight and taking time away from his leave just to chat with us. This man has been gaming for about as long as I have and started on that 8-bit console many of us began our gaming journey on long ago. Seriously though, a Zelda and Metroid fan, you know you're in good company. You know gaming has been a key part of this man's life if he still continues it on breaks from serving our country. Now, we can forgive this man for being a warlock tonight because our co-host can't be here, so he can fill in the role of controller floofer. Any man who makes sure to get 1,000 kills with each weapon before he even sits down to write a review plays this game in a different way. Whether it's the analytical approach that comes from spending time with any specific armament, or just knowing his own mind, knowing on his own that he did more than just look at the perk options and knows his opinion on the weapon comes from a place of true honesty. It's a great thing to see. So let's welcome a man with a true knack for finding out how off-meta really feels, got a bit of the stasis bug and can't leave Shadebinder alone, and a man who really made it in the world of the internet because he finally has haters too. But in all seriousness, I want to thank this Sergeant First Class for his service, and glad to see he will be coming home to the city of blues and arches after being away for a very long time. Let's give it up for the one, the only, Critbuff. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm well, Bontis, and thank you for that amazing intro. And also thank you both, Travis and Bontis, for having me on the show. And thank you both for your support for the service and the service members. It does mean the world, and it helps us do what we do. So, no, truly, I appreciate being invited onto the show today. And I love that last part of having finally acquired some haters. That's when you know you really made it. So,
I mean,
Right.
just ask Travis about his many reviews, and the comments in the IGN comment feed are definitely
I
something
don't
to
know
skip
if
over.
they're I don't know if they're Travis haters. They're more IGN haters that I'm writing on the coattails of. But yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Well, okay, we'll have a different discussion when you publish your Xenophage review. How's that? Not Xenophage,
Xenoblade. I love that you
Xenoblade.
destinied up that game. It's great.
I've been using that gun too much. That's my own fault.
That's true. Yeah, you have a good point. There are people who hate me specifically. They're not as many as probably Crit or you, but yeah.
No. Yeah, it's like when you
sell
when you
yourself
go.
short, Travis.
But no, that was kind of one thing I actually wanted to ask you about is I know your gaming journey, like Zelda, Metroid, love the fact that you love those, 8-bit Nintendo, fantastic. But as a military man yourself, still making content on Destiny, playing it up, getting the 1,000 kills before you publish a weapon. How has gaming been a piece of your life all through like growing up and then through nearly 20 years in the military? I mean, what has gaming been for you during that entire time?
Thank you. So growing up, it not being, terribly athletically gifted in any specific way. I played soccer for a few years. It was a hobby. It was something I could do with my spare time. It was something I could develop to getting better at. It was something I could take in at my own pace, and that's something I'm sure that we probably all appreciate about the hobby. If nothing else, I think we can all find common ground there. And so, continuing on with that in the military, there are several games that have got me through deployments. So, Elder Scrolls Oblivion got me through my second Iraq deployment. But for my first one, and please don't be too hard on me for this, Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball in 03 to, to 04 was there for me when I was in stationed just outside of Fallujah at FOB Mercury. So that, and then Halo, the original Halo,
Okay.
getting back stateside, playing the sequels, and then of course going to Afghanistan. Skyrim did a lot for me, just helping me get through that deployment because there was so much to do, and that one was a little bit shorter of a deployment. I was a little bit busier than I had been previously with the other deployments, and then so now, having been garrison side for quite a few years, as I near the twilight of my career, or I'm actually in it for the military, I would say having picked up Destiny and wanting to not wanting to share information that I think the average person could relate to. The best of the best player base wise already know what works for them, already know the meta, and they play in accordance with their play style. But a lot of us, a lot of people identify with a certain weapon, like IRL Titan loves Jotun.
Justin is great.
Justin is, if Jotun was a human being, it's Justin.
Yeah.
And so a lot of players have those off meta picks that they enjoy. And so that's usually why I do the weapons that I do. If somebody already knows if they like pulse rifles or not, but when they watch my video, I'm hoping to either reaffirm what they might like about what they suspect they might like about this pulse rifle, or they may say, oh, you know what? He mentioned that one thing, and that's something that's a deal breaker for me in pulse rifles. So he saved me the time there. A lot of people misinterpreted my statement in the community focus. I'm not telling you what you should use. I'm telling you what happened while I used it.
Yeah. If you actually take a second and watch one of your reviews, for one, you take the time to get 1,000 kills with it, so you actually spent time with it. Because anybody can look up, a gun on a website or whatever and say these perks are probably going to be good, but everything has different feels. You cool guy, especially like the way you spend time with a weapon, you see the gameplay, you got the kills, you got the footage of you going through. It's like I watched the one with Firefight with you, and you're just sitting there, just I swear couldn't miss your headshots with that thing. The stability was an absolute laser. Did he freeze for you? Oh, you're back. Okay, caught up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nope, you're good. Internet caught up. And it's just you see it in use. It's not just pick it off a spreadsheet and whatever it may be. I mean, that's something I'm probably to fault for, is saying, hey, this weapon theoretically could be good, but then I pick it up and it's like the new pulse rifle, new purpose. For some reason with me, I haven't clicked with that weapon yet. I know it's got potential in that slot. It's also got adaptive munitions in that slot. So it's kind of unique there. But again, for me to like spend the time to go after it has been weird because one, been kind of busy, but two, it feels off. And I think that's one of those things that, again, you spend some time with a weapon, it is going to be how it feels for you. But it's like, if you actually, put hours in with a weapon, 1,000 kills is, how many matches do you think it takes you to get 1,000 kills?
So that depends on a variety of things. There are weapons that I'm naturally just better with, right? I'm 40. My reflexes are nothing approaching that of like a highly skilled player. There's that gif out there of me shooting the ground as someone jumps over my head, and then I joke about aerial gameplay being oppressive. But so, for example, Firefight, I got 300 kills in a day on Firefight. That has never happened since and has never happened before. Something about the 450 auto works for me.
Yeah.
Travis could pick up Firefight, try it, and say it's garbage. And for Travis, it's not the right weapon. It doesn't fit.
I have trouble with auto rifles. Yeah.
There you go. Right. So how Travis approaches encounters, his decision-making process, everything about how Travis plays may not gel well with autos, but they could work for me. So that's the point of the reviews. Now, so submachine guns are very hard for me to review and to do a video on because I perform poorly with them. I'm not a very good aggressive player at all. I have a hard time tracking in close quarters combat. In addition, there are just elements of outside of my control. I'm in Hawaii, so I match East Asia, I match Central and South America, I match US West Coast. My connections are usually not the best. And that can also become a problem. Destiny player movement can interfere with being able to track targets in CQC when you have reflexes like mine. So it really is a weapon by weapon basis.
Travis?
Can I ask you about Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball?
Go for
You
it.
can. Hitomi. My favorite was Hitomi because she.
Hitomi. Nice.
Yes. When I played Dead or
I
Alive.
actually played that game. I don't remember why. I think it won like an award, like best graphics or something like that. And my friend was showing it, but I actually played that game for like 8 hours one night, like with my buddy. And it's one of those games where like for the first like 2 hours, you're like, dude, this is the weirdest game I've ever played. And then after a while, you're kind of like, but I kind of want to see the ending for this character or that character. And you play it for a little longer than you expected. But please tell me about your relationship with that game and why you're into it. I need to know the story here.
So it's a catalyst, right? Severe boredom plus lack of access to anything else. There was a small shopette, which was really just someone's house that still lived on the base. We had a very strange setup back in 03. We had occupied like a town as our base after it had been abandoned mostly during the war, initial invasion. There were still some families there, lived, right next to us and everything. And there was a home that had been opened up into a post exchange. So you being from a military family, you understand what a post exchange is. It's basically military Walmart or Target. You don't pay taxes on anything. So the sticker price is the price. And the American Armed Forces Exchange Service, I believe that's what the acronym is for AFES, they open up these little shops for bases forward with the troops. And they didn't have the biggest selection in the world, Travis. So Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball was a title they felt was going to sell to a mostly young male audience.
I cannot imagine why. Yeah, can't quite picture.
So, and I was a fan of the fighting game. I remember playing it. Hitomi had a male mentor. He was almost a protagonist of the series. He was a ninja with amnesia and
Ryu Hayabusa, that dude.
No, not Hayabusa. His friend.
His friend.
his German name was Ein, but he's actually a ninja. He was like Ryu's best friend or brother, and he had amnesia after one of the games, and he was found in
The
Germany's
blonde dude?
Black Forest.
Oh, I can't remember. Yeah.
If anybody
was-
in chat knows this game from 2003, please hit us up. Oh, see, I think I'm getting connection issues with him right now.
Yeah. I'm
He'll
just
catch
waiting
up
for him
here
to
in
come.
just a second. Yeah.
He'll go super speed.
Yep.
I can't wait to hear his explanation in 5 times speed. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. I love how Robert Jones says DOA was the waifu game before waifus were cool. I mean,
True.
you're not wrong. That whole that kind of started
Yeah. That's
that one
OG.
up.
I gotta say,
I
he
love
looks
the
pretty
pose.
smart with
Yeah.
him. Yeah, he looks pretty good.
Got that. At least he didn't end with one of these. You guys are watching the video or listening to audio maybe and may not always catch the video. At the end of the show when we say the last word, you'll notice we actually hold up like this two check marks with our hands or whatever. And for whatever reason, just like Critbuff is lagged out right now, that happened to me. But unfortunately it was mid like expression and my hands were perfectly shaped just like this. And that's why we do that every time. So it's this weird idiot joke that happened, and now the other two, the Cog's not here, just make me live with it. So it's a good way to end the show with an inside joke every time.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. I also believe that by the time you came back from being frozen, we were all doing this, waiting for you.
Yeah.
We were like this in that mode. Looks like we lost him. He'll probably be back. Oh, cool. My head's in an interesting spot.
Oh no, I tried to move us. I'm trying to go back and forth 2-person. There we go. We got him back.
We got him back.
Okay, my sincerest apologies.
So
We
Hawaii
lost you
connection. It's all good.
We had just decided who Hitomi's master was, and you were about to tell me what you thought after you actually started playing the game.
I like Totomi because I liked the play style of strong strikes, right? So you punch someone, you send them through a wall every time. So when she was available as a waifu, that is where I naturally. And she was
Yeah.
challenging because she didn't like the skimpy suits. She was a much more modest person. So
Yeah.
It's a shame when
You
that
know,
happens, really.
this is
It's tough. You got to grind that. You got to grind that money. Do the gambling mini game if you want to get.
Careful with your word choice when we're talking about all this stuff, Travis. There you go.
yeah. So
Okay,
being of a next subject. Next subject.
Yeah, you're good. No,
Yeah.
we'll see if we can get him to blush. We'll see if we can get him to turn the same color as my.
No, this is great. So I
Yeah.
played that game, and then I have this pet peeve where if I own the original copy of a game, if a sequel comes out, I feel like I have to own it, even if I didn't like the first game, just because you're making a collection here. So when Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 2 came out, I bought it when it was on sale for like $10, like 6 months later or whatever after it came out. Weirdly, it wasn't as good. It like you fall off that game super quickly, but it didn't capture the same magic, I guess, of the original, which is such a weird thing to say about that series.
The magic.
But what's funny is I at the time I had this thing where if I owned a game, I had to get at least one achievement in it because that was like proof that I played it at least like some amount. In some games, that's really easy to do. In Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 2, it is not easy. You have to spend a lot of time playing the game. Like there's only like a handful of achievements and they're all like get every costume on this character or like, stuff like that where it's just like a lot of grinding. But I was committed. So I was with some friends and they were like, dude, you own this game? And then I was like, yeah, I've been trying to get an achievement on it. And they were like, dude, we're going to stay here until you get an achievement. And we played way too much of that game. So I have good memories with Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball, despite the memes and the weirdness of that game. But respect, man. Respect.
I mean,
I would ask you to remember I was 21.
Yeah,
There
I
you
was
go.
like, we
Yeah,
all
I
have
was-
those
I was-
types
I
of
was-
games. Are you kidding?
I was
Of course.
a teenager. Yeah, I was in like early college when that game when the sequel came out. So that means Dead or Alive 1, I must have been a high schooler. Yeah, must have been a long time ago.
Oh, you
Yeah, so-
youngin. It's like I'm a year
Yeah,
under
young guy.
our guest, but not too far, since I am officially 39 now. That happened
Hey.
since the last podcast, so
Happy birthday.
thank
Right,
you.
yeah.
Shout out real quick to TP Hayden78. Wanted to give a belated birthday shout out to Ebontis. Make sure you get that advanced GG with code Ebontis. Tastes great and it works well with hashtag Earth Sauce. Love you guys. Oh, the Earth Sauce. Anyway,
Love it.
That's kind of amazing.
I'm gonna create memes that follow you for the rest of your life. That'll be how you remember
I've
me.
got
Remember me.
podcast segments. They're hashtags now. There's gonna be a clip of me some days that turns into a GIF, and then I'll know I've made it at least. So
That's how you know.
if you can turn into a GIF, I know what Greg Game Over Greggy, like I know he's got one that's like he's definitely got. Yeah, if you have your own GIF, you've done pretty well. But yeah, so I mean, when it comes to Zelda or Metroid, you got to pick one. Which one do you pick?
Metroid, and very specifically because I think Super Metroid set such a high bar for what I expect from a game.
A good choice.
Can't
really-
really
Not to Yeah, the Zelda games are amazing for their, especially these latest titles that focus on open world exploration, and they've always been fantastic in my opinion. But for Metroid, leaning more to science fiction if I had to over fantasy, that's probably the determining factor.
It's not a bad pick.
And yeah,
I don't know, Travis. Do you even have a favoritism between those two?
Yeah, I love both of those games. I'm probably more Zelda. It's not that Metroid does like its genre extremely well. It's more that just to me, it's really hard to beat like an adventure game like Zelda, where you're fighting bosses and doing that sort of thing. And I also like when I played Super Metroid, like it changed my life. I was like, Jesus, dude, this game is
Yeah.
like so well designed and all that stuff. But there's something about like the open world and exploring and swinging a sword at things and riding a horse and all that stuff. Where when I played Ocarina of Time, I was just like, dude, this game is real. Also, I feel like Zelda has more really good entries as a franchise than Metroid. Metroid can be a little hit or miss. They have some good ones and they have some that are just kind of mid. And I feel like Zelda has like bangers a lot. So if you're talking the entire series, probably Zelda.
Yeah.
Although it's just hard to beat Super Metroid as a singular game. I also really liked the recent one. What was it? Dread? It was a good game.
Dread
last
was
year.
very good, actually. Yeah, that I
Yeah,
really
cool.
enjoyed. Yeah, I mean, I would probably have to lean Zelda as well. Ocarina is very much like one of those pivotal gaming moments when it's like 3D open world on a horse going through time. It's like I hadn't really experienced too much like that at the time. But also on the other side for me, it was like I started one of my first games was the gold cartridge Zelda. So that happened before Metroid. So that's where there's like I wanted to play a lot of the Zeldas. But as you said, Super Metroid, the missiles, trying to find every single upgrade in that thing when you were like a kid, searching every different direction. It was, I don't know. I think Zelda would win, but Super Metroid is a very special game. So it's like I get the argument for sure. Feel like we lost him again. Yep, that's okay. That's part of a Hawaii. This is why, though, as he was saying when he was talking about like an auto rifle might work better because if it still registers him holding the trigger in the Crucible match, at least he has a chance to still be firing.
Right.
So
also maybe he'll be one of those people. Some people retire and move to Hawaii. Maybe he'll retire and move away from Hawaii, and that'll be his treat where he can get good internet because that'll be his version.
Yeah.
Of retirement.
New Rad said no Chrono. Chrono Trigger is still definitely like in a very short top list for me, if not near the like top 3 for me. But I was just going between those two. Do what?
Do you see Hogue roasted on Sunday?
Does he really not like that game?
No, he loves it. But we did a
what roast your favorite game?
It's called W3YFG. What's wrong with your favorite game was the name of the segment. And so what we did was we took everyone's favorite games and we just roasted them real quick. That was our show.
A good one.
And so, yeah, he did a really good segment on Chrono Trigger, which is one of his favorite games that you can watch. I think if you click on Bitcast, they clipped it, so you can see like a little clip of him doing it. It's like 30 seconds, but it's really good.
I mean, yeah, the game is not perfect, of course, but none are. But that, I don't know, if Square ever could make like another after Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, if they ever think about doing another one, my hope would be for that. Do I ever expect it because there's so many different magical people who came together for that game? No, but if they ever could, please. I don't know, it just so many unique characters, and it was like the group attacks for me that I always loved because you'd have the 2 pairs, then you'd get all 3, have your certain special attacks that you do. So Yeah, Chrono was definitely an epic one. Well, before we get into the Destiny stuff, I definitely want to try and let Critbuff get back here.
Yes, sir.
Have you? So you haven't played much. You haven't played at all this week, have you?
I think I played a little. I logged in. Might have done some events. I haven't played since reset. That's what I mean by I
Okay,
haven't played
yeah.
this week. I haven't gotten to do any Iron Banner.
Iron
so.
Banner. I was like, I'm working through going back and forth between Titan and Warlock for the daily challenges, so I can finish that one. But man, that one triumph for the title, where you have to do like the objectives in Rift.
Certain amount of objectives, yeah.
Why is it always there's like one bounty in Iron Banner that would always come through? It's like 3 of them would go relatively the same speed, and one was always half of that speed. I'd finish 3 bounties, and the other one was like 50%. This is like the same thing. I'll be done with every triumph multiple times over. I'll probably reset 3 times before it feels like I'm going to finish this one. And I try a decent amount. I've got a decent amount of dunks. There we go. We're back.
So one thing I'm not going to miss about Hawaii, the internet.
I don't doubt that.
I was just saying, actually. Yeah. I was like, he will have a reverse retirement where he, instead of moving to Hawaii, he moves away to somewhere where he can stream better. So
I apologize. I think you were talking about Chrono Trigger at some point. I saw the chat mentioning Chrono Trigger.
Oh, yeah. They just mentioned, because we were going back and forth between Metroid and Zelda. I think I leaned a little more Zelda. Oh. But the new Red knows Chrono Trigger is like one of my favorite games of all time. He's like, what about that? I was like, well, it's up there. But yeah, that one's special.
Chrono Trigger, I adored Chrono Trigger. I beat the first time, and I got to the village at the end where you're supposed to go talk to everyone and see the results of what you've done after you've defeated Lavos. Spoilers. And
I think at this point you're okay. I'll give you that one.
Right. It's only been a few decades. I had to hit pause because I had a soccer ship, a tournament soccer championship game to go play before I could find out and see what had happened during the ending. So I literally had to hit pause and be like, well, I guess I'll get back to this in like 3 hours. Went and played the game, tied with the #1 team, and then came back home. And
you tied? I thought, wow. What about shoot-offs? Whatever happened to shoot-offs?
The championship ended in a tie. No one won this year. It's fine.
That's insane.
The presumptuous little... They brought trophies. They brought trophies, yes.
Shoot off. I demand a shoot off. What is this?
So, yeah. That was...
Wow. But, we used to have a country. What has happened?
I know.
When you don't have a shoot off for your Little League soccer game.
It's the worst.
Because I also played in a championship Little League game, and there was a shoot off, and I lost. And you know what? I'll take that L. I'll take it. It was fair.
You're like, I don't need this participation blue ribbon.
Yeah. I would rather get second place than say I tied for first. That's insane. But yeah, I digress. That's me.
That's crazy. So did you? So what happened?
You.
What happened when you came back after the weirdest tie ever?
Went around the village, talked to everyone, New Game Plus, and did that until I got all the endings. And if you remember Chrono Trigger, there was like 17 endings.
There's a lot to that.
It was a high number.
Yeah.
So I got all the endings right. The one where you don't save Magus, Magnus, you do save him. You don't replace Chrono with the doll. You do, right? My favorite is the one you've done New Game Plus a few times. You can just have it be Chrono and Marley, who fight Lavos. You go on the opposite teleportation pad at the carnival at the start, and you are immediately sent to the last boss of the game.
Didn't even know that was a thing.
And if you do New Game Plus enough, you with the healer and the DPS that is Chrono, you can fight Lavos and beat him.
Damn.
So, and your characters kind of sit there and go, what was that about? I don't know.
What happened? I don't know. Big crazy boss. We took him out. We're too powerful. Anyway, back to the party.
Yeah. So,
well, I think we got a solid connection with you again. So I did want to kind of jump over to the world of Destiny. Got a couple things. Have you had a chance to play Iron Banner this week? I know I asked Travis and he hasn't had a chance yet. What about you?
I did. So a big shout out for Mudkip, if you know him on Twitter.
Yep.
I know him on Pokemon.
There you go. So he's been doing some charity fundraising for Bungie.
Yes.
for this event.
Yep.
And joined him and his team for Iron Banner, and it's been fun. I got my Iron Lord title the first week, like a madman.
Yep, you're
That was
crazier than the
also
two of us. You're like Cog.
it's while I was working
I
on
gotta
the.
do it. Yeah, no choice.
He had no choice. It's in.
Man,
I hope it's worth the surfing. That's all I'll say.
I will say when I went there, because that was our honeymoon, got lucky enough to go there for our honeymoon. I had never surfed in my life, and we stayed on Maui, and we went to, like, you could stand out there to about shoulder level for me. I'm a little taller than you. You might have been drowning, but I could stand out there. Anyway, it is so funny when you rent a surfboard.
I wouldn't have to stand out there because I could surf.
Yeah.
Ebontis. I'm a
I can
California
swim.
native.
I can swim. That's fine.
Okay.
I've never learned to surf, but when you rent a surfboard, like you see always in the movies and stuff, they're these tiny, cute little things. The rented surfboard is like a sidewalk. It is so big. It puts you're just up there like, okay, I don't even know how to fall off of this thing. So the little baby waves where you could stand up, managed to actually get up after a little while. But we ended up going like 3 of the mornings out of the week we were there. We like fell in love with surfing. I wish I was closer to that. That would actually be a ton of fun.
Yeah, so there's actually a separate word for the mini surfboards. They're not real ones though. The big one that you got is a proper like real surfboard, but only the hardcore surfers own those. Like people in my neighborhood do because I live right next to the ocean. But
Yeah.
most people they just if they go to like the beach every once in a while, they won't buy the big ones because they take too much space. They'll buy those small guys. There's a name for them. Boogie board. Thank you. Robert Jones, you got it. Boogie board. That's what they're called. Yeah. So
Boogie. Oh,
he's like,
no. Okay. Well,
"Is that a
okay. I'm
book?"
not talking about those. Those are ones you can almost like, you get on your chest. Like, I don't know if people are
Yeah.
standing on it. No, but I'm thinking of like the movie style surfboard to where it's, smaller than what I got. I got a training board that was like way oversized.
Oh,
It
interesting.
was like a
Okay.
12-foot massive piece of just inflatable whatever. So it was a little crazy.
You're basically riding a canoe, is what you're telling me. It's like,
Yeah, it was about that big. Like it was
yeah.
definitely an experience.
Okay.
Okay,
I've
well
never seen one of those, but yeah, it's good to know. You
yeah,
got the
so
logo back.
we got the logo.
Yes, so I'm hoping that maybe just voice will make this better. I do apologize, everyone. I have no choice in service providers where I live,
No.
so this is unfortunately the mode I'm stuck in.
Trust me. Travis has the best internet between all of us, and I normally have the worst internet between all of us. So we'll roll with
This
it.
is
It's all
a,
good.
Is it
But yes,
time for
no,
my PSA on choice in ISP? Is that the time for me to talk about that?
I don't know.
I say go for it.
Okay. Well, guys, we need to break up these pseudo monopolies called AT&T and Comcast. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to get on that soapbox. Although I could.
Yeah, I have the other one. I have Spectrum or AT&T. So yeah, I'm with the faster of the two, but it's all cable. If I could ever get fiber, yeah, I swear it's like I want to like spearhead the like getting fiber internet into my entire city or something, and like put that whole project together. It was like I swear it'd be worth it. I told you before. There's a fiber line 700 like feet from my house. It's stupid how close that is. If you guys can hear my dogs, they are chatting and playing right now, so that's always fun. But yeah, Iron Banner this week. Since you're back, how's your experience in Iron Banner been? Since I know you were helping Mudkip.
Well enough. We were running a full team, so it was mostly easygoing. You see a lot of the meta bleed over from the more competitive playlists naturally, right? People are using what is going to give them the path of least resistance to a win. I cannot fault them for that. And so you're seeing a lot of that, and I personally have kind of given up on trying to provide my 2 cents on whether or not that's for better or for worse. It is what it is, and there's nothing I can do about it or to change it. And so I guess just besides developing unique strategies of my own to combat it as I can.
Well, we understand. Believe me, we all understand that piece of it. It's just like whatever. I mean, if you got a good group that's playing well, then just roll with whatever works for you guys. It's the best that you can do. I mean, for me, playing by myself as a solo player, it's one of those that's always a little bit sketchy, but I mean, I'll use half the time I'm just trying to get things done or get participation, so I'm not trying, especially if I'm switching between characters right now for the challenges. If I sink time in my Titan, I might go a little harder on like picking a decent load up. But if I switch over to my Warlock, I'm literally just getting like the match completions and then I'll switch back. Like, but it is good when you do that to kind of use something a little weird, kind of break my normalcy, which is nice.
Yeah. What I would like to do in a perfect world is starve people of special, but you can't really effectively do that, right? Because they're just going to spawn back in with the 2 kills that they need. And while yes, they may not be able to get 40 main ingredient kills a game, or Lord of Wolves in this case, they're still spawning back in with 2 shots. So it's still not much that you can do to combat, except for to hopefully make your decisions based on what you know they're using and play around that, you know?
Well, I mean, feels like kind of with Crucible right now. I mean, I've seen what look like dissertations on Crucible on Twitter recently. So I mean, there's been a lot of feedback with the state of things. People are not happy with Classy Restoration being a mod. People would like to see that turned off in PvP. It helps people in PvE like get through dungeons. I mean, there's balances to it, and it's weird to see, especially with Classy Restoration. It's weird to see them be open to leaving that there when there's so much complaints, but then on the other side, deactivate the sidearm thing because it shoots through the bubble, which you see like every so often, but everybody can dodge into a Classy Restoration, or everybody gets that. It's weird to see what they will and won't like touch.
It's funny, when I saw Classy Restoration, when I opened up the artifact at the start of the season and I went over, and that's usually the last column is where all the cool stuff is. I saw that, and I said to myself, like, wait, didn't we learn our lesson with Elemental Battery?
What did that one do? I forgot.
That one gave you an overshield when you used like at least I remember it. It was, forget, they would basically wear Worm Husk, they would dodge, they would have an overshield while they were dodging, and then they would get their health back from Worm Husk. It was similar, not quite exactly the same to what we're dealing with now, where you effectively have to kill a hunter like 3 or 4 times.
With the amount of health that they can get back, yeah. I was like, I mean, me as a Titan, I'll throw up a wall. I've got Loreley. I mean, that thing's pretty powerful too. Hunters, Worm Husk Crown, you've got that one. What's the stag standing in a rift? Now you get healing and damage mitigation. I mean, you've got ways on all sides of it where you're gonna be pretty tanky. Just depends on if you catch them in the moment. There are certain builds though, and the fact that I would still say Hunters it's literally part of your movement to be able to actually keep it with you. Seems like one of those things.
Yeah,
But I mean, hey, what do we got? 6 more weeks of this, and then we'll move on, and everybody's going to be like, "Oh, I missed that in PVE and PvP complainers and all those things." And then we'll get a new season.
Is there only 6 weeks? Holy crap!
I was
That's correct.
ballparking 6-7 weeks, something like that.
Dude, I think I'm not even max season rank. I need to play more Destiny this season. I'm falling behind,
You've been busy, man. That's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be one of those. You might be one of those casuals that just gets to 100.
How dare you? Actually, I kind of already am. I kind of stopped playing. I get to like 120, 150, and then I'm like, eh. The Iron Lord title I can get next season if I end up not having time this week, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, let me ask you, considering that we're on the subject of Iron Banner, gentlemen, do either of you see yourself really aiming for something specifically from the playlist, right? Now that you can focus your engrams?
No.
Not. I was like, a lot of them have been there, and if I wanted to roll most of them, I think I've got a decent amount of them that I do. I got a decent Wizened Rebuke, but it is also a 9. It's like, 960, nearly. It's the slowest type. And I think I got one with, was it no backup plans, maybe a successful warm-up? Like, it's a decent one for a fusion rifle, but as it's a slow one, I still don't know if it would actually do that much. That's what I'm going to have to experiment with just to see if it ends up being worthwhile. But I mean, I just got done farming hardcore for, what was it? The title. And I actually like a couple of my rolls on the title, like the Void SMG. And we have another Void SMG, and I think I was like, I've got one. But when it comes to Iron Banner in and of itself, not really much to farm for at this point. I mean, for new players, maybe, but honestly, when we get to talking about the event, the new players are going to get a lot more out of that, actually.
What's interesting about Iron Banner is that some weapons have origin traits, like Hero's Burden having the Suros origin trait, right? Something that could be taken and used elsewhere. Whereas, say, Forge's Pledge, the Machine Gun, Wizened Rebuke, any of the hand cannon, any of the Iron Banner specific weapons, they just have the Skulking Wolf trait. And so
Yeah,
it's
so
a
specific.
tough sell.
Yeah. Yeah, they almost need to put on to make those worthwhile. I mean, it is a PvP and PvE game. And as you said, the Suros trade would be there, but it's like almost Iron Banner should have an alternative reason to farm for those weapons. As you're saying, get a PvE option in there on those 4 origin traits to give you a reason to use them outside of there and make it kind of cool. Because then you'd have a reason to go play. Because what is it, when the fires are lit or when you guys have the rift or something, or when you have the spark, are like the 2 minuscule times when you can actually get the benefit from that origin trait. It's just very oddly specific for that. I agree.
Right, and so I imagine that when it's active, it's powerful, right? Being taken off radar is always going to be powerful. That's why a lot of people play Invis in addition to Omnioculus, but some incentive to use it in another playlist would be cool and possibly something that could be worked towards one day. The only thing I would tell you is that I suppose if you don't already have a Hero's Burden with Repulsor Brace and you're a really big fan of Void and Repulsor Brace, you could do that. That could be a targeted farm for you with your engrams. But Repulsor Brace does drop on the trace.
Yeah. I was going to say, then you get into the debate of it's not craftable, though, so my odds of getting the perks that I'm looking for with the reputation grind is going to be quite a while.
That's fair.
So what are your thoughts? I've seen, back and forth a little bit about craftables and things of that. How have you taken to being more of a PvP player? How's craftable weapons kind of taken to your playstyle?
It's interesting because we know, or at least correct me if I'm wrong on this, but my understanding of Bungie's philosophy is that usage rates.
Did we lose him again? I can't hear you.
I said I think so. I said it defeatedly.
Said it quietly and didn't quite come through. Man, where are you on crafted? Since we'll get back to his response.
Craftables. I still like crafted weapons. I don't think it's that. Like I said, I think you can't really get pure god rolls with crafting because they never let you get the best perks, but they let you get most of the way there. And so if you are kind of a hardcore light like myself, like I'm not the hardcore of the hardcore, I'll play to get the 5 red frames and get a craftable version of the weapon and then grind it up a little bit when I have time. But I'm not willing to do the same activity 50 times over and over and over again to get a god roll organically. Like I've just never grinded for god rolls because I don't really think it's worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
And so I think it's great where the people who really, really, really want the best equipment, they can grind endgame activities for the, what are they called? The special versions you get from like Grandmaster Nightfall. Why am I forgetting? Adept. Yeah, you can get the adept weapons with a god roll, and then you have like the best version or whatever. But that's if you want like the 5% extra power that you get from doing that, because I think you can get like 95% of the way there with craftable weapons. So I kind of like it. I think it's in a good spot. It gives the only risk they have is if they let you craft the best version of the weapon, then you would just be completely de-incentivized to grind for the adepts or for the god rolls that come to you organically. And I'm sure some people would bemoan that, but I don't really. I think you should be able to get the loot once you do the activity and complete all of the check marks that Bungie's asking you to check off. So not that big of a fan of RNG in general.
Yeah, I mean, like the raid RNG needs to have a cap on it, in my personal opinion. We've discussed that before. Like, after 20 raids, either you've been dragged through it enough, somebody knows how to do it, or you have mastered it enough that you should probably get it. If you're doing 50, 60, 70, 80, it's ridiculous. The one thing I will say that's a little frustrating is if you're going for season-specific weapons, it seems like if you're going for, trying to think of an example, I was doing Nightmare Containment and I had already got Drain, for example, or
Right.
Sever. Like, if it's a seasonal mission and that's one of those things that is mostly going to be dropping those two, it would be nice if it kind of had a bit of a knockout list. Like, if you are trying to get that last one, if you do get a red frame, it is going to be for the stuff you haven't received. I think, because I mean,
Yeah,
it's going to
I
take
think
a
that
while for them to drop anyway. But I think on the other side, it would be nice that, because I got Drang done, I got Callus Mini Tool, I just finished Offstringer, and then I just got another Drang red one. I'm like, oh, well, that's just completely wasted. So it's just that weird. If you're working towards that in one specific activity and it doesn't drop, I know like everything can drop. We had that, unfortunate moment for you last time, but it's just like if you're working in that one specific place where you're trying to grind for it, I think those should be worked through a little bit better. Are you back, Crit?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
welcome.
At least for the moment. Thank you. I can feel the frustration. Sorry.
No, you're
Uh,
good. I was like, we get it.
I feel bad for you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
day to
Thank
day.
you.
I would move. My internet goes out once. I start packing boxes.
Well,
So
Yeah.
Well, the good news is I do have a permanent change of station to the U.S. East Coast here at the end of the month. So
Nice.
where are you gonna
yes,
be?
Fort Knox.
Not
Oh,
bad. Location of Goldfinger, James Bond movie. Classic James Bond movie. Um, yeah, I think that's a good point. It would be great to have a knockout list for red frames. I also think they should make the grind less long when you're leveling up your craftable weapons, because I think hunting for frames is fine, but then when you add another layer of grind, like, oh, you have to use the crappy version of the weapon for 20 full levels, that's kind of crazy to me. And it also means that even once I'm done with the 20 levels, it would behoove me to just put that weapon in my vault and get another crappy weapon and start grinding that one up. And so you end up never using the weapons that you want
yeah.
because you always could just be using the worst versions to, you don't want to waste XP, right? Oh, I'm going to
Right.
be doing strikes anyway. I might as well use the crappy weapons that I need to level up. And so it's created a situation where I almost never use my favorite loadout. I always have like at least one, crafted weapon I'm trying to rank up while I use other ones that I'm good with. And that's no way to live, Epontis. That's no way to live.
Like, I got my Callus Mini Tool crafted with Incandescent. I have enjoyed blowing stuff up with that quite a bit, so that one kind of stays. But if it's the top or bottom, yeah, it's like it is. I'm not using my pulse rifle that I enjoyed for a while. It's like, what red frame can I use? And especially if you get one, then you've got to use it for 20 levels, unlock it all. No, I fully agree. It's like, but it's a point of their, they've got their engagement that they want to do. How long do they keep you in it? And it's all those metrics and numbers. But I would say if they could pull back 20% on that, it'd be nice to see those numbers go up a little faster. At least if you're leveling up the weapon, give you a little more just usability quicker. Like if you start leaning it, or if you start doing, almost like a streak bonus, like the longer you use the weapon, the faster it levels up. Especially when you get up to, those last few levels, you're trying to see just those last couple of perks, like, start working through them.
I guess so. On the subject of weapon crafting, if I understand Bungie's philosophy correctly, balance for them is not every weapon having the same TTK, doing the same damage overall over time. Balance was, I think, everybody not using the same thing, was the quote that I seem to have in my head. Does that sound familiar, or am I crazy?
I mean, it seems like it's definitely possible at some point. I mean, that sounds like something where they want anybody to be able to use any weapons, probably is something I've heard at some point as well. It doesn't seem out of left field.
Right. So if that holds up, if that's true, and I remember that quote correctly, unattributed, unfortunately, then what we have is everybody using the same peace of mind, everybody using the same Austringer, everybody using the same beloved, and that seems at odds with that philosophy, if I'm remembering that correctly.
I mean, we're also in the world of Destiny where it's like, we joke that this will never be an esport. It's never going to be completely balanced. So then on the other side, I guess like how much effort are they ever going to put into making everything even? If everything's even, is it boring, or do they do what they do and constantly kind of fluctuate us as we go on the slow roller coaster of this is good, and now it's not so good. Oh, it's coming back again. Oh, it's going away. Like, is that what they're trying to do? Is just constantly have this rotating meta and off meta situation, or do you feel like their goal is to ever get it truly balanced?
Oh, I mean, to aim for true balance would seem to be a fool's errand.
Travis is over here cracking up. What do you think, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is impossible for them to balance a game with thousands of weapons, and they're constantly adding more. Plus, all these different power sandboxes, plus the armor and the stats thing, and yada yada. I don't think that'll ever happen. But I do think uh, it is incumbent on them to try, and that they will always have to try as long as multiplayer is a part of the game, because you can't just say, "Well, my game's never going to be balanced, so I'm going to make it supremely unbalanced." I mean, you could try that tactic, and maybe people would laugh for a weekend, like laser tag weekend, but you can't make that your entire game design. There's no coming back from that, and the fan base would flee eventually. But I think I think they have to try to always get a little bit closer, and sometimes it is, one step forward and 10 steps back, but, as long as they keep trying. And I feel in some ways, if you look at the overall arc, we've gotten a little closer to balance over time, you know, come a long ways from the days of, every melee and grenade was a one kill, if you did that on your
Yeah.
power, that was D1. So I think we've gotten closer, but it's it's an ongoing process. So good on them for continuing to try. They're nowhere close now, and I don't know that they'll ever get you know very close. They might get approximately as good as it's going to get, but I don't think they'll ever really close that gap too much. So
Yeah.
What's that? What's the myth of the man cursed to roll a rock up a mountain and then it just falls
Sisyphus,
right back down? Yes, I
right? Yeah.
think that seems very appropriate to think
Yep.
about.
Bungie is Sisyphus, and they push the rock up the hill every season, and then Telesto kicks it back into their face. They're,
That is too accurate.
Telesto's at the top of the mountain with this foot in their face, so it's good times.
Oh, it's great. I love it. Banshee holding that gun is just the
Well, the
little.
fact that it broke him just shows that weapon is too powerful for the game. I mean, despite them, they've kept it in there as long as it has. Some point, I would have been like, I'm sorry, this exotic has been just removed from the game. I don't care anymore, just delete it. That probably would have happened at most other developers, but they still try and keep it in. But on the outside of PvP, if you're enjoying Iron
Mhm.
Banner, this is your last week to get it in. So if you're trying to get your title this season, at least now is the time, because it won't happen until season 18. And who knows if they're going to do 2. Do you guys think they're going to do 3 Iron Banners next season, or do you think they're going to just stick with their 2?
Depends on how little content they have next season.
Travis.
They do have a raid next season, but it will be a reprised raid. But then you have master difficulty, so
Well, we know that they have as many Iron Banners as they need to be able to say that they're having something going on in Destiny every week, right? That's kind of the rule. So, however
that's probably
gaps they
the math. Yeah. How
yeah,
many weeks do we need to use it?
yeah.
That
How many
seems
weeks
fair.
do we have to say, "Hey, it's Iron Banner week," so that we have something to post on Twitter about what's happening this week? That seems to be the math. So
Well,
probably 3 times would be my guess.
yeah, I'd be my guess, or hope, I guess, just to give you a little more chances at the title if you're trying to grind for it. So it's not quite as, especially if you need to do the daily challenges, you have to do 12 of them. It means you need to literally do it 3 times. So if you don't have another character, you literally can't get it done in one season. So that would be
Yeah.
my guess. But if you're not a PvP player and you don't really love Grandmasters, PvE's been a little light. Quests all finished up,
Mhm.
and then not much going on this week. But next week we have Solstice coming back. So we have the European Aerial Zone returning, brand new kind of activity for it. We've got the Bonfire Bash. I'm not entirely sure if that's like a tower defense thing or if it's just going to be similar. We'll have to see what that's all about. But we have the new event card to kind of give us a bit of an overview of that. The event card basically sounds like what we had the books for in Destiny 1, where you kind of like flip through, do a couple things, and it'd show you where everything is going to be for the event. They kind of consolidated. So in your quest tab, you got bounties, you got the quest you're working on, then it has a little seasonal challenge bar. I think they're going to shrink that little bar and then put the event book right there. Is kind of the way they described it. Or if you want to check it out at Ava Levante, you can. We're gonna have seals and titles. So Teddy is gonna have more things to chase now. He's gonna have the Solstice title and seal, but he's also gonna have the multi-seasonal event thing that he's got to keep up with now as well. So you're gonna have 2 different titles, one that you can get, and then one that you can start working on, but you won't get that one completed for a whole year. So the OCD completionists will struggle on that one for a little while.
I hope that they make some title that's just impossible for Teddy to get, because I want to see how far that curse would drag him down. Like
He would be like flying back from Gamescom or something.
yeah. You ever know Elder Scrolls Online? Elder Scrolls Online has a in-game achievement. You can get an Xbox Live achievement for it, for being the emperor of the game. And to be the emperor of the game means you have to have the highest score in the game, and then go through some sort of political process where the winning faction elects you as emperor. It's one of the rarest achievements ever, because only one person can have it per in-game season, and it's a incredibly time-consuming and political process to get it. And I actually found you can find interviews with people that talk about how they became emperor for a season, and how crazy it was, and how much time and money and all that stuff they had to do to get it. And I hope they come up with something like that with triumphs, where it's just be number 1 on the leaderboard in Crucible, first place. You have to be first place to get this triumph. Just because I kind of want to see what would happen. I think it would break him.
Who did we have on? We had Scarrow on with Teddy, and then they connected over being triumph, orders, and they want to have all of them. And if you ever made one to where it was you were number 1 this season, that whole group of Triumph people would be mad. So either they're going to piss off 57 of the 58 people. I don't know if they would ever go quite that far. That'd be rough.
It's just 57 people. It doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. And the people who have every Triumph, you would know they were serious, because now it doesn't really mean anything. All it means now, if you tell me you have every Triumph, it doesn't even really mean you're good at the game. It just means you have a lot of time, a lot of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you were actually number 1 and it was something where you had to do something crazy, then I'd be like, oh damn, he's got every triumph. That's mad respect. But I don't know. I mostly just want to see Teddy get broken as a person. That's really my goal in all this. That's my stake.
True friend. I want to see what happens when he breaks.
Yeah, I do. Let's see what happens. It would be interesting to me.
So the event card's going to have your challenges that you got to do over the course of the event, the seals and titles. It's also got the upgraded event card. Now, this is the free optional side of things. They covered this in a previous TWAB. Basically, what it is the fact that you're going to have... they had a listing of it. So if you do the upgraded event card, you've got the hot dog eating champ, you've got the Sunny Exotic Ghost Shell, you've got a shader, you've got an emote, and then from tickets, you're going to have another ghost hologram, an exotic ship, another ghost hologram, which you're not really selling me. Those ghost holograms, those feel so useless most of the time. Transmat effect as well. So it's mostly, it is basically just cosmetics. Do you feel... Again, we've talked about the pricing and things of that before. Where do you stand? I'll start with you, Critbuff, of the idea of them taking the seasonal event and now adding an upcharge for this thing. Now, it's probably, if you went and bought all the different things from Eververse, it would be cheaper, but where do you land on the upgraded event card? Yay, nay, don't care?
Let's see. So my mindset on this, having come from World of Warcraft a few years ago before switching to Destiny, is that I don't pay a subscription fee, and Bungie does have to make money to continue making games. I'm sorry. I'm going to have such a non-interesting take on this. I guess I will just say that it doesn't directly impact me in a negative way, so I'll learn to live with it. Does that... I don't know. Am I crazy for that?
No, would you prefer that those things were earnable in game?
Oh, in a perfect world, yeah. Ideally, if this was Star Trek and Gene Roddenberry's vision of a world where we didn't have to pay for things like food was a reality, then of course
Star Trek Next Generation.
Yeah, exactly. I understand the why. So looking at it through that lens, I suppose I come to peace with it. Not to say that everything should cost me, like if weapons started costing me 5 cents to loot a chest at the end of a Vanguard strike, now we're like, okay, hold on. But yeah.
Travis, I gotta get your take. I haven't even got to the currencies yet, but just on the upgraded event card, how we feeling about this one?
I hate it. So,
I knew that was
so
coming.
I hate it so much. Look, I get it. You're making a live service game. The problem I have is that you need to pick what type of game you are and have a payment model, a monetary model that fits that game type. Because right now they sell you base expansions, which is what all games do, right? Games with no support and games with support sell you base expansion. They have season pass model, which a lot of games that are free make all of their money purely off of season pass model. They have microtransactions on top of that season pass model, and they charge for things like transmog. And now you're charging me for the things that are in the season pass, the seasonal activities, or I guess that those aren't the things in the season pass, but things that are happened during the season of the season pass. It would be like
That
if you paid
sentence
for the
alone was convoluted, so yeah.
right, yeah. It would be like if you open up Apex and they were like, "Hey, buy the season pass," and then you bought the season pass, and then 2 weeks out of that season pass, they were like, "Here's a special event, but this also has like its own mini season pass you have to pay for, or items that are exclusive behind another paywall." And if they did that in Apex, I would raise a major eyebrow. But on one hand, I'd be like, "Well, I didn't really pay for this game. I paid for the season pass, and I guess this doesn't count." But I would still raise an eyebrow. Destiny has no excuse. They have so many sources of revenue. And let us not forget, they just got purchased by a large company that they don't even have the excuse of we're an indie company doing things the hard way anymore. They also are now bought. I'm sure that none of that money went to the company. It all went to their shareholders and the people that started the company. But still, they are under Papa Sony. They have they're not even at the scrappy stage. So for so many reasons, I have a problem with this, and I think that somebody is super greedy over at Bungie on the monetization team, and they need to just take a look at the ecosystem. If you need to add this, take away something else, and maybe take away one of the things that is preventing your players from playing together, like the expansion model that says, hey, if you don't own this expansion, you can't do this activity, and it divides up playlists and does all that stuff, hurts the community actively. If you're going to add something like this, at least fix one of the problems that's being caused by your really dumb monetary system. I need you to give us a little back, because it really is starting to feel off kilter now. And it just, why? This is another thing that players were getting for free. We used to expect that we would get some of these items for free, and I just it really bothers me, man. So
No, I mean, honestly, you have a good point there, because you brought up what it's like for a new player. And I mean, most games, if you're going to buy World of Warcraft, a couple of us have played it. You're going to get the newest expansion. You're going to pay for that one. And that's how you kind of jump in. And you might get the base Destiny, but you're not going to have to buy. I'm not going to have to buy Cataclysm 8 years later just because it's the old expansion, but I got to make sure I have the content to be able to go do this one activity. Or say a Nightfall comes up and you can't do a Nightfall because you don't have a specific expansion. That's the type of stuff, as Travis said, fully agree. We're at the point to where it just feels unnecessary. But as Travis said, if this is a necessity, then do the other thing and make the old expansions free. Because how old are some of those getting? You still have to buy Shadowkeep, correct? Like Shadowkeep's not free. Forsaken's gone. We know that one. And it's like, there's got to be a point to where it's like some of the stuff is going to go into the content vault. Are they going to make Shadowkeep free in January before the thing comes out in like March or April? So you get a few months of it free, go play it, and then it goes again. But then if you buy it right before that, you could waste your money. It gets to a point to where I understand, as you said, they were trying to make money. They're doing these things. This one just feels like, how many of these can we shoehorn into the game before we get to the point where they get enough feedback that people are mad? And we still have the point to where the season pass armor, which looks very cool, feels like it also could have been in the dungeon this time because it has like the death armor face and kind of the nightmare look to it. And it was another one of those moments where that was shoved behind Eververse as opposed to in the game. So again, that's a moment where why is that not the armor that looks badass in the dungeon, but that's in Eververse? But then we turn around, we also have this for Eververse to get these cosmetics that we could earn. It's just, I think Travis has got a legit point. There's a few too many now, and they got to pull somewhere to get a little bit of faith back with the community. Because if you have the backing of Sony and you feel like you're hiring crap loads of people at this point, they are hiring constantly new days. So many people got those wooden bungee swords last week and stuff like that. So much of that stuff is going on. They seem to have the budget to be able to do what they're doing. So at some point, they got to do a little bit back for their community that's still here, that's still trying to do this, because they're not helping the new players get in. And if you're not helping new players join your franchise, hurting the ones that are there are just going to thin the herd slowly and surely. By the time you get to whatever is post Destiny 2's final shape, whenever we get to season, God, what is that going to be? 18, 19, 20. Season 27 would be the last season, which sounds insane to say that word. But season 27, when that ends and the whole franchise, this 10-year saga is done, if you've pissed off everybody, if you just nickel and dimed us all the way to death, 27, like, when you try and do whatever follows that, I don't know how you do that if you piss people off just enough that eventually everybody's like, I'm done. Sorry, that was a long-winded corroboration of your answer.
No, it makes sense. I think this is hurting their game in multiple ways. Not only because it's confusing to the player in terms of, oh, what do I have to buy just to be caught up? Dude, you know how many people hit me up and go, Travis, I've been trying to get back into Destiny, or I'm trying to play Destiny, get into it for the first time. What do I need to purchase to just get it all? Because I thought I bought the game, but then I tried to access an activity and it said I needed something else, and they're really confused by it. So there's that level of kind of confusion, but there's also just the confusion of like, what are you paying for? What parts of the game do you get by making certain purchases? What are you entitled to? What in the game can be earned versus what has to be purchased? And I feel like it's been such a weird, slow shift into something else. I don't know. I'm sort of spinning in circles. We've already talked about it. I'll just say this: Bungie, you are primed to make a mobile game. Like, you're ready. Have fun. You're hats off to you, man. You've done all your training.
They've got the NetEase money and that collaboration.
Right.
All right, if that thing is successful and I see that they make $100 million in the first month of their mobile game, this stuff has got to back off, I swear. Because that better be a cash cow, pay for your NetEase investment, and then come back in here and clip the wings on a couple of these things. But yeah, it's like, I know it's just cosmetics. I know it doesn't affect the game at all, but it's still a point personally to me that I just like, it's like Transmog already didn't feel great that you could technically buy some of that stuff to speed up the process. And I'm like, okay, it's still cosmetics. And I know this is still cosmetic, but this is the weird one for me. And I don't know why this one's like the straw that's breaking the camel's back for me too specifically, but it feels, this is the one that feels too much. And I don't know why for me it hits that way, but this is the one that just feels like, for a seasonal event, you can buy everything in the Eververse store. Now it's upgraded cards. You can, I don't know. Maybe the upgraded card is a cheaper way if you do all of it, but it just feels weird to me. I don't love it.
You know, I mean, a cup can only hold so much water before the water starts pouring over, and you might have just reached that point.
Yeah. Well, there is a hot dog eating champ emote that will be part of it, which you can actually see. I'm sure that one will be entertaining. And you've also got the little old lady beach hat on the ghost there. So you got a couple of those different ones. I'm sure.
Old lady, that's my wife now, man. She's only 30 something. That's
no, that does not look like a young person's hat. Maybe I'm wrong.
Has there ever been a better metaphor for Bungie's eager greed and consumption than a hot dog eating contest?
Now we're getting all metaphoric here and getting on deep levels.
Grow fat with strength, man.
Yeah, the world of
They
opulence
become
is
callous.
definitely coming
Yeah.
through. Or Guardians start walking around, they look like Thor from Endgame when he's got the belly, who just
Eh.
ate too much.
My wife loved that. She I'm convinced that once I'm out of the army, she's just gonna get me as big as possible. She loves it.
Nice.
Hey, you've been in shape for a good 20 years, I'm sure, so you're probably due to just relax a little bit. I'm sure your habits probably won't let you get too bad, but I would imagine hopefully you'll relax a little bit. On the other side of things, though, we do have armor.
Mhm.
This is where the currencies come up. So Travis, get ready, strap in, and get your entertaining arguments coming. So Solstice armor is going to work differently. Previously, you would get like a blue set. You'd do the objectives of each of the blue set armor. When all of them were done, you could upgrade to the legendary, like low tier, do all the objectives on those, upgrade the full set to legendary high tier, which you could take with you after the event. And then if you want them to glow white, you could go do the certain thing on it. Cool. It was a little convoluted because you kind of had to do everything, whatever it was. They're changing it. Now, there are some things that are good, but I can't say it's any less simple. We'll have to see how it is. And again, tune in Tuesday. I will put out a guide as soon as I can wrap my head around everything in game. But you're going to earn silver leaves by completing activities throughout the game. Hopefully those are balanced well, but people are going to come up with the fastest farm for those. Then you can transform silver leaves into silver ash by completing the new activity Bonfire Bash. Now, question one that I have to see how this works out, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this one. When you transform the leaves into silver ash, do you think you can earn a whole bunch of leaves and then go do the Bonfire Bash once? Or do you think you're only going to be able to cash in a certain number of leaves at a time? And I've killed Travis. Crit? Is he not even there? I can't even get his response because all I've got's you right now. He's
He
here.
left. It wasn't actually an internet connection this time. He was just.
It's just
doing
like
it
I can't listen to this.
for political reasons. He left. Yeah.
Well, okay. So for you, question one. I haven't even got to all the currencies. Do you think you're going to be able to take a lot of silver leaves and put them into silver ash one time, or do you think it's going to be multiple times and only a set number of silver leaves you can turn in at a time?
Obviously the latter, and I think you know that.
I assume that's how it's going to go. But if you look like silver leaves and you have a bonfire, just throw all the leaves in and you get your ash back. Theoretically would make sense though, too. But the way the game is, yes, I expect the other. So that's fine. Kindling.
What better metaphor is there, going to another metaphor than this process of them adding new currencies, them taking something that's full of life, a leaf, and turning it into ash? I think that is exactly what will be happening to my joy when I do the Solstice event. I will be bringing forward something that was alive and green and fresh.
Silver,
and I'll be
theoretically.
walking away with silver. I mean, in this exact example.
Yeah.
And I will be leaving with nothing but ashes. That's what I think is going to happen.
This is a very deep episode. We're getting some deep cuts
Very
today.
deep. We're really, this is just Travis gets depressed during an episode of The Last Word and just goes on melancholy rants.
Oh man, I'm like, we're jumping back and forth. So I'm trying to like resize windows as we go. It's been an interesting one.
Yeah,
That's fine.
no, sorry about that.
No, you're good. Okay, so then we're also going to get something called kindling. Now this is going to be like you're going to set number of this. Kindling is going to be completed by the Solstice event. You're going to earn that by completing Solstice event challenges. So this will probably be in your little event card. You will spend kindling to upgrade your armor. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to do the challenges and then spend the kindling on the armor slots that you want. So you can focus into certain ones if you like, as opposed to doing the objectives that were listed on the armor. So they basically took one thing and replaced it with another, but it's generally the same idea, it seems like. Now, the major positive that I'm going to say out of this, I will say the silver lining from the silver leaves and ash and kindling. Hey, I got to get one. I got to get one.
Yeah.
The silver ash that you get is going to allow you to re-roll stats on armor. So you'll go through the seasonal event challenges, you'll get kindling. and you're going to upgrade a slot, which is actually kind of cool. This is where I would cross my fingers and hope that this could be something like leveling, where you could just level up a slot and not have to infuse, because infusion is already annoying enough. Because what you'll do is, like, if you get, say, a helmet, and then you get a couple others and they're sitting in your vault, and you level up your helmet slot to 3, which would be like the max level. You turn around and any helmets that you own, have on you, or future get, they're all tier 3. You don't have to level them up again or anything like that, which generally would probably be the same way as probably once you've unlocked the class of armor or the tier of armor in the previous years. I think that's all that would drop, but they just kind of change the way it works. The thing that I like is the fact that you're going... Yeah, exactly. This is why I'm going to make a video on Tuesday, everybody. There's a reason for that. So stay tuned, because I'm going to try and put this all in video form so I can show you how it all works, as opposed to trying to read it. Because I even made a video over this TWAB today, and I was like, I'm reading through this, and in my head, I think it makes sense. But it's already a little messy, and if it doesn't quite come through clear, it's a mess until you actually get to see it. And then somebody's going to log in and look at Solstice and be like, I don't know how to do anything. So at least there's...
Oh, new light players.
Yeah.
Oh, Kindergardians. Good luck starting the game during Solstice of Heroes.
Yeah. So basically they say, to sum up, or TLDR, so complete event challenges to earn kindling. Use the kindling to permanently upgrade your Solstice armor stat roll potential. So basically what you're doing is, like, it only gets junk stats, it gets medium stats, and now it can have good stats when you fully upgrade it. You can complete activities to earn leaves. When you do the bonfire ash, you can turn the leaves into ash, and then you can use the ash to reroll armor. Basically, it's a very roundabout way of saying you actually are going to be able to get a piece of armor and then reroll it as many times as you're willing to get the silver ash. And if you can focus into a very specific stat, for example, maybe you want really high strength, you can actually focus in, and it's going to be a guaranteed 20 or higher in that slot. So if you're looking for a build, maybe you're a newer player, maybe you want, like, hey, I want a high recovery build, or I'm a hunter, I need a high mobility, like, set. You actually will be able to build yourself a pretty decent set from this. I will say that actually is something they haven't done with this event before. Now, is it a convoluted way to get there? Yes. But the end game, if you put some time in, I can see some benefit to that for certain people. If you've already got, like, all the sets of armor you need, this one may not do as much for you. All right, so now that I've explained it, Crit, are you here?
I am here, sir.
What are your thoughts on this? Because I know Travis is going to have a whole thing, so I got to go to you first.
My completely neutral thoughts are that it seems to me a model has been developed and is in practice where, and this happens with Vestiges of Dread and Bound Essence with Nightmare Containment, which we are experiencing this season, right? In this case, wings or leaves would take the place of Vestiges of Dread, ash taking the place of Bound Presence. You conduct your activities as you normally would. Weekly reset hits. You do your strikes, you do your gambit, you do your crucible, you do your dungeon, whatever. You acquire Vestiges of Dread, or in this case, leaves. You then participate in the Solstice event, stepping in for Nightmare Containment. You get your ash. You spend it as you need. Whether or not this is the right way to go about this, I can't really say. I will say it does seem to be a reoccurring pattern, and this seems to be the way that they are content to do things. Right? Play the game as you normally would, acquire currency, spend in a specific event for additional currency, which is then used towards specific rewards associated with the event. So it is clearly, it's the way they're going. And I don't see them changing course anytime soon, because it seems to, this is something that has reoccurred over and over and over again. So.
Yeah, okay, that's the high level summation of the style of event we have from Bungie. Now I gotta get the Travis hot take.
I agree with Critbuff that it is something that they are doing and likely won't change. But I disagree with him that I can't say whether it's bad or good. I will gladly say that it is terrible and that you should stop doing it, because it is a nonsensical system wherein you have people chasing a fake thing so that they can earn a separate fake thing so that they can use it to do something else. Not only is it confusing and convoluted, it's not fun to earn fake bucks to spend on things. If there's been one through line on what Destiny players enjoy, it's when they complete an activity and that item drops right in front of them, whether it's popping out of a chest or using a skeleton key for it, or the Galahorn popping in the upper left-hand corner that you got it in the loot, whatever it may be. They like to see, they want to skip all the steps. Why am I getting Bungie bucks that I can go to a mall and then buy them in the most sterile and unfun way imaginable? And why are they making the event more complicated and adding more currencies when it was, first of all, already was kind of complicated, but literally the activities and the stuff you had to do was on the armor that you were upgrading. They had the technology to add it there, and instead they're doing this other system where they're making it more complicated and hard to even understand like how you progress in the event. And I think we know why they're doing it. They're doing it so that they can add caps, so that they can make it so that you're, if there's one good thing, it's that
there's going to be caps on all this crap,
yeah, and it's going to be caps, and they're going to, that way you can't complete all of your armor objectives all at once. You have to choose where to spend your silver, whatever that you're buying, and then do all that. I have one question for you guys, and I want you to think very hard before you go with the gut answer.
Oh, okay.
Do you think there is any? Do you think that there's any chance it's not a coincidence that both of these currencies have the word silver in their title, like another currency in Destiny called silver?
Ooh. My answer, Travis, is that I suppose when we think about the Tree of Silver Wings, was it back in
Season of Arrivals?
That's what they're going for. But any chance you're going to be able to turn silver into silver leaves or ash?
Oh God, I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong too.
I don't think you're going to be able to do that. Because again, that gets into buying.
Oh yeah, because we all know Bungie's really afraid of charging their players for things. They've been.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying you would literally be paying for stat rerolls at that point, and I don't think they would. They technically haven't crossed that line yet.
Well, not 100% true. They charge you for ghosts and sparrows that do have gameplay impact.
But you can get one with the same functionality. That does the exact.
In the past, you had to get them through Eververse only, and they added where now you can put mods in and stuff, but there were like XP boosts and stuff. So they've done it in the past, and I thought that they were pulling away from it. But I don't know, man. I'm not so sure now. I have my doubts. That's all I'm going to say.
It does seem to be creeping into weird territory. I mean, the upgrade card, as I already said, was kind of a weird feeling for me. I mean, that's just one of those, like, you get this weird vibe, like there's going to be a Solstice upgrade card. That's and then there's going to be a Festival of the Lost upgrade card that you can do, but then you're also going to be able to buy the armor at Eververse. I'm like, what if there was a ticket that I could earn the armor from the card, but then you got to buy it? I don't know. It's, as you've already said it, there's too much going on with too many ways to spend money. Most all of them generally do tend to be for cosmetics. This, I don't think, will involve actual silver, which is, cross our fingers, I hope not. And I don't expect that. If they did that, they would get a lot of flack really quickly. But it's just one of those things. I was just going to say, for certain players, being able to build a set around a stat of armor that you may not have been able to focus into before, or now with resilience having more of like a damage mitigation thing. I know people are looking to try and get into that or get stability or whatever, flinch and those type of things. Certain people may be trying to get a stat they didn't have before. So this is a way to actually try and like re-roll and focus armor, which is something we haven't been able to do in a very long time since Glass Needles. So it is nice to see that as an option. The grind to get there is going to be interesting, but overall, that's like the silver lining for me of the event. It feels weird with the upgrade card, but if I can earn armor that I can reroll stats and be like, eventually be like, okay, reroll, all right, I got a cool headpiece. Let me use that one. I'm good. And it's like, if you wanted to build 1 or 2 sets of armor from this, you could. But as I said, if you don't need to do anything like that, this whole thing is probably just going to feel probably not necessary for some people, veterans especially.
So something to support my concept or my idea that silver leaves, silver tree,
Yeah,
right? They call it a paracausal bonfire, and the tree was paracausal in nature,
that is true.
if I remember correctly. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing I can offer in support of my point.
Hey, it's
So
better. It's something. Honestly, I don't think they would actually make it real silver, because you would see some very good flack about that one. But I'm just saying,
I tend to agree, but I'm just saying it's not off the table given what we know. And also, regardless of whether silver has any interplay with silver leaves or
Mhm.
silver ash, it
Mm.
is even more confusing. If you're a new light and you're looking at silver leaves and silver ash, I would not blame anyone for thinking, "Oh, I'll pay $20 for silver. That'll probably help me progress in this silver-based activity I'm doing." So all of it just adds another layer of complexity regardless. And I hate the way they do currencies. It's such a pointless, arbitrary treadmill that they could
Mm.
just simplify like every other looter shooter does. No looter shooter does this, man. I just got done reviewing Outriders, World
yeah,
Slayer. That is a game where you get your drops right either from enemies or from loot chests. It feels good when you get loot. Destiny is so in its head with like this how do we create the perfect treadmill for players to run on, that I think they've forgotten the beautiful simplicity in killing something and getting a cool drop.
Mm.
That used to be how we got everything.
yeah. I mean, that's, I guess, the double-edged sword of Bungie has been able to be successful, build up a studio, grow themselves. Unfortunately, some of it has come at the implementation of Eververse and the expansions and the seasons, and some of these things that we have disagreements with and how they monetize the game that we play. It's like, and then there's a point like, what is too far? How deep do your pockets really need to get? Or what else is it going towards? The Netties 160 million or whatever it was. I always forget that number. But it was like $100 million at least was, put in. And now we figure out what that's going to is going to be something separate. But it does get to a point to where how many times do we need to have a question of like, what is too far in the monetization? When you said you turn around and play Outriders, but then you see like the success of Outriders. It came flash in the pan. There was a lot of technical difficulties because honestly, if that game came out technically polished the first time, it actually would have done very well. It was the technical difficulties, deleted inventories, COG couldn't log in for a month. Like, you had some major issues that burned that one. But if you do make a good game, like they mostly did, then it can do well. But again, to manage and pay for a live service, things apparently get very, very expensive. And these seem to be some of the ways that they try and pay for it. But yeah, I do feel as they build out the studio, they have more artists and other things. At some point, give me something I can earn in the game that's equivalent. You can have cool things here, and you can have equivalent things that you can buy, but at some point, I want to see a little more equality between those two. The
Yeah.
dungeon this season was an example with the armor. I feel like that armor from Eververse should have been in there, or the season pass, wherever it was.
I also think players get a little too uh empathetic with Bungie, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but
No,
I don't think that you should always be worried about like, well, they're running a business, they have to keep money. Like, that's their problem, right?
Mm.
Your problem is if you're judging them, just saying like, does this feel as a good experience as a player? Do I feel like I'm getting my money's worth and that I'm being treated fairly? You should always be looking at things from that, and you should try to blind yourself, in my opinion, to how Bungie is making a buck. They're going to be fine. I guarantee you. They just got acquired. They're going to be okay. But I don't think that it's our responsibility as players to put ourselves in their shoes and go, oh, but they've got bills to pay, and
Mhm.
Nancy just got promoted and she's getting a 10K more a year, and I don't. That's not our job as players. I think our job is to say, look at what we're getting, look at how we're being treated, look at how confusing or simple the system is, and ask yourself, does this jive with the industry standard? Does this make me feel like my time and investment is being respected? My dollar is being respected? And if the answer is no, then who cares how Bungie is paying its bills or what their income and expenses are. That's not your problem unless you work in finance for Bungie, in which case, I'd love to have you on the show and talk about what your problems are. I don't think that's something you should even
That's
really
a
be
guest
taking.
I don't see us getting.
Yeah, I don't see the community team blessing off on that appearance.
Yeah, can we get the CFO to join us on the show? And we want to break down these monetization models and really understand where are our Bungie bucks going, and how do we get more Bungie bucks?
I see Dylan greenlighting that one.
Yeah, no, the press would be like, nope, delete that email. In fair point, yeah, that's not a press trained person or anything. But no, I mean, I completely agree. And that's why I said, for me, this is the first time, whatever you said, the cup got full. It's like, for me, this is the time. It's like the event card just feels weird, feels odd, feels a bit much. We already do, as you said. I mean, I bought the deluxe edition with the 30th anniversary, so I spent $100 on the Year of Destiny. Cool. I get the dungeons, but yeah, you have a new player come in, they buy the season, and they don't get the dungeon with it. Well, can they go buy the deluxe edition? Okay, but the deluxe edition has a season that some of it will be there, but it will go away eventually. So depending on when they buy the deluxe edition to get these things, how long are those going to stick around? Next year, being as the dungeons tend to stay in the game, but on the other side, the seasonal content does not. When we think of the duality dungeon next year, how is somebody going to turn around and play the duality dungeon in season 19 in Lightfall? Are they going to just have to buy the year 5 dungeon key in Lightfall, even though that stuff's back here? And maybe on a rotating pinnacle thing where it comes up for a pinnacle drop from the final boss once every 6 weeks? Is that what you're really going to have to do next year? Like, I mean, I'm asking you as a legitimate question. Do you think that's what it would take?
I'm trying to add up how much money you'd have to pay to get a full year of Destiny if you wanted everything in the game.
I mean, you can do $80 right now. $80 would buy you Witch Queen and everything for this year. That's what it was. If $20 was.
What about the events books that they're selling now?
Oh, I mean, in theory, there's 4 events, I think, because you got Solstice, you got Festival of the Lost, you got the Dawning, and I'm forgetting one, which I feel like we just went through. What was the event last season?
$120 a year.
Yeah, so $120 for all the event cards, as well as the expansion and the 4 seasons, if that expansion deluxe edition, say, includes the dungeons. Yeah, $120 would be event cards, and then the deluxe edition with the expansion, seasons, and dungeons.
Because my understanding is obviously anybody can take part in the seasons, but if you want a treadmill of things to earn during those events, those seasonal events, even to get on the treadmill, you have to pay the $10, right? Is that my understanding correct?
You can. So the way the event tickets work is you'll earn the event tickets all the way through the event. If you want to choose to upgrade your card, you can wait till the last day. If you've earned all the tickets that you feel like you want to earn, buy the upgrade and turn in all your tickets. So you can wait to see how many tickets you get to figure out if it's worth it for you, which is something I recommended in my video. But yes.
So yeah, you don't get anything on that reward treadmill until you pay the money, though.
The upgraded one, correct. Yeah, you get nothing from that until you pay it.
Terrible idea, frankly.
Critbuff, do you think in Lightfall, a new player is going to have to buy a dungeon key to go play duality?
Gosh,
Is he pondering? Or
are you there?
At a really unfortunate time.
Yeah, he's really deep in thought right now. I'll give mine, and I think the answer is yes. Because the dungeon key is a separate transaction right now. It's going to sit out there in the store, and it's just probably going to stay there, and it's going to be duality and whatever Season 19's dungeon is going to be. That's how you're going to get access to him in Lightfall, and you won't have access to him if you don't buy that key.
That's correct.
I was like, I feel now what it should be is, say Lightfall is $40, say the deluxe edition is $80. Do you want to own all previous content $20 more? Just make it one flat fee and wrap everything else in a bow.
What about free?
I mean, that would be the optimal one, but if they feel like they need to charge for, you know, all of you're buying the base game as well, that's like your base game purchase or something like that.
I think
Get
I
all
think
the
it
old
hurts
stuff.
Bungie. I think it hurts Bungie to not make all the old stuff free, because then they manage to even if they do manage to sell a new user on Destiny, they immediately have to explain all the stuff that they can't do, and I think it's like more of a burden on them than it is on us. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I'm not arguing. I think it should be, but
yeah.
Critbuff's back. Okay, so the best
Yes.
timing. You were very deep in thoughts, and now you're back.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that question? Since you probably heard mine.
When I buy Lightfall, I should get everything that happened up to Lightfall as well that is still in the game.
Yep, I agree. But I just, do you think it will work that way? That's the question.
No.
Okay. We agree on both sides. We don't think it's going to work that way, but we think it should.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually, I'm even more extreme than you guys. I don't think you should have to buy Lightfall. I think at this point, the season passes and the microtransactions and the transmog and all the stuff they're doing with the event books now that you're getting, I think that their model does not match the industry standard at all. If you look at live service games like Fortnite, which you don't have to buy ever, right? They're free to play. Warzone, like all these games. And a lot of those games have a lot of content now. Obviously, Destiny, we hold it up on a bit of a pedestal because it's got such high quality content. But at this point, they have enough revenue sources and they're no longer an indie company that's doing their own publishing and all those other problems, right? They're about to be nested in this large corporation. I don't think it makes sense for them to be charging for expansions at all. And I think that if they didn't charge for expansions and they made all that base content free and just charged for the special stuff, it would actually help them because it removes a bunch of barriers of entry from getting people to start playing your game and to keep playing it and to not fall off. And it stops the bleeding that I feel has been happening for a couple of years now, where it becomes their player base is fragmented 4 different ways now from all these people that do or don't own all this different content. And I don't think that puts them in a position for success, them being Bungie, or the players for that matter. So I just think that Lightfall should be a free expansion, and that they should, if they're going to, they need to choose one. Either you charge me $100 for that year of Destiny, or you charge me nothing and you make all your money when I buy your season passes and your microtransactions and all that stuff. But they should not be selling the main content if they have the microtransaction model that they have. It just doesn't make sense. No other game has it. None.
I'm not arguing. I mean, realistically, from their end, I don't see them doing a free expansion because those expansions are larger influxes, and the deluxe editions as well. But I am to the point to where if I tell a friend, hey, do you want to jump into Lightfall? Especially because you keep taking stuff away, and then you know you have limited time. Like somebody goes to play Final Fantasy 14, they can start at A Realm Reborn and go. It might take them 400 hours to get through it all, but technically it's there. You can't even do that in this game. So I think there's the point, as you said, simplification for the player base, unfragmentation of the player base, Lightfall and forward, costing some money, whatever they're going to do. Anything before that, free. I mean, it's got to be like, there's no, it burns too many people, as you said. You've started the bleeding and they're not helping new players fill in the holes enough. There's got to be a point in this population's just getting smaller and smaller. And if you try and milk the you're only going to you can't get blood out of a stone at some point. It's just not going to happen. So that's kind of where I'm at on that one. And it is, I will be very curious to get Cog's take next week because I know he's not here for this one, but just to see how he's taken, I guess, just another micro, another whatever it may be. But yeah, when it comes to the TWAB, they do have the foundation update going on. Always a good thing. All their fundraiser incentives are going on. I know you said Mudkip was doing that. So if you are a fundraiser and you do 2,500 or 5,000, you get some cool emblems. If you are a donator, you can get the new 7 of 7 emblem. It looks like kind of a 7th column. Cool looking rework to it. And then also if you do $100, it's 50 for the 7 of 7, $100 for the Heart of Hearts emblem. You get, I think, every Heart of Heart emblem they've done in Destiny 2. It looks like 5 of them. And all this stuff is going to improving children's health and well-being, uplifting the voices and rights of the individuals and communities, and providing humanitarian aid for those in times of crisis. As they always do, their fundraising efforts are fantastic. And they also kind of go for a little bit for the over 165,000 Guardians have found their loyal companion with the loyal companion emote. You go watch that story about the Make-A-Wish kid, Christian, and his dog. You're a dog lover. You're screwed. Grab a Kleenex. You're going to cry. It got me, dude. I was watching that and it just could not help it. And then they got the little plushy dog in there. It's a German Shepherd, looks like one. So I don't know if it's not quite a husky, but it's close enough. I still might end up getting it. But yeah, that one was rough for a dog person. Him and everything else was like, that was rough. But yeah, Bungie Foundation is always doing fantastic stuff. So check that one out. Some cool emotes and stuff and good causes that they go to. But outside of that, the patch next week, we will actually have 3 hours of downtime, 3 hours and 15 minutes. So actually from 6:45 a.m. Pacific until 10 a.m. Pacific, it'll be down. So a longer downtime than we've had in a while, actually. Outside of like,
it's great for me because that's like 3:45 to, you know.
Oh yeah, you'll be. You can sleep a little more. You can sleep a little bit. There you go.
Yeah, that is something I will have to get used to going to the East Coast, going from being 3 hours behind PST to being what
3 hours ahead.
3 hours ahead. 3 hours ahead. Yeah, so that'll be a fun adjustment.
Yeah, that'll take you a little bit for a minute. Gonna be a rough first week if it's a 6 hour like permanent jet lag for a minute, I would say.
So the multiple trips across both oceans for the military have kind of cured me of that. If I go to sleep that night, I wake up, I'm fine. I'm adjusted, I'm set.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't gone far enough that it's hit me. Like I haven't gone to Europe or the Asia side of things to where it's like a far enough adjustment. I went to Hawaii and it was 5 hours from here.
Yeah. Sounds right.
And then because I'm in Dallas, and we talked to like the concierge, like, hey, what should we do in the morning? And they're like, oh, there's this like surfing thing, like 6 a.m. Like, are we gonna be tired? She's like, no, you're gonna be awake. Because our body clock was gonna be off. And sure enough, like we got up for that one. But yeah, it was like that one time kind of worked out, but I could assume it would be pretty bad.
Yeah. I got a funny story one day about a typo got me sent to Thailand and back. 34 hours of straight flying.
How many hours?
34 hours of straight flying. A typo in an email got me. Sorry. No, sorry for another time.
How's that? What? How? You got to tell us now.
Remember I mentioned earlier before the show that, my job has a similar job in the military, and the terms are used synonymously, the names for both jobs.
Okay.
That resulted in me getting sent when they wanted somebody else. So they kicked me as soon as I landed in Bangkok. They're like, we didn't want you. What are you doing here? Get out of here. And then that got me sent on a plane right back from Bangkok to Seattle.
Damn.
So.
Yeah, that's rough. You're like, can I sleep for a minute when you get back home? It's like, hopefully you got a chance to recover.
No, the office wanted me back in to go over what happened right after I got back home, even though my wife and child both had the flu when I left, too.
Well, that was a very expensive typo that got written off as probably a very expensive toilet seat or whatever the joke is or something like that, so.
Okay, sorry. Enough about that, sorry.
No, that's, random stories we don't hear about. I just, boring civilian life. We don't get to accidentally travel to Thailand on a whim, so.
Bought my daughter a little Minnie Mouse doll, though. I'm sure it was like licensed. I'm sure Disney was well aware of that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that was 100% legit merchandise.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a quieter time in Destiny, so I mean, if you're working through backlog, playing some other things, putting 2,000 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 3, make sure I say that right. I'm sorry, like Xenophage like comes out of my mouth a lot more than Xenoblade, so forgive me.
Yeah.
And it's not like that game has a super passionate audience or anything that you don't have to worry about reacting.
Write a review and nobody even cares. Yeah, no reaction.
Okay, so here's a question: when you because a lot of the IGN reviews are pretty condensed, yours might be not a hair longer, but yours like 8, 9, 10 minutes. I might have seen one. I think the Loopmancer one today was probably about 8 minutes. When you have a game of that length, does it necessitate a much like any longer review, or is your goal always to still be able to tell your review, even if it's a 200-hour game, in that 10-ish minute window.
Yeah, I'm someone who doesn't really like the skill up model just because I feel like if you can't put the overview and the thoughts of what is helpful to a player who's coming at it from maybe not knowing much about the game, then you're sort of asking them to do a lot of work when you're supposed to do the work for them, right? You're supposed to summarize, you're supposed to make the review digestible and not make them watch an hour-long video to understand what you think. But I also think that, tweeting a review is not really great practice either because it just is too much of a summary for me. So typically I try to end between like 1,500 to 2,500 words, somewhere around there. And I'm a pretty snappy writer. I tend to squeeze my thoughts into fewer sentences rather than more. I don't really drag on, despite what I do when I talk. I drag on when I talk, and then when I write,
Oh.
I make it very short.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm long-winded for sure.
yeah, I'm long-winded when I talk, but when I write, I'm really succinct. Uh, yeah, I think best serve the player who's wondering if this game's worth their time, it won't be substantially longer. That said, my review is as long as I have something to say. And so if a game being really long means that I have a lot to say about it, it will probably be longer. I don't know if that's the case with Xenoblade. I think Xenoblade is long because it's a JRPG that wants to make you feel like you're on an epic journey and wants to make you feel like you know the people and the characters in your party like really well, like you're like best friends with them by the end of the game. And so I somebody in the comments section making fun of me for talking too much. Yeah, to answer your question, I think it'll probably be about the same, even though I've spent now over 100 hours playing the game at this point. So
Yeah. I mean, that's kind
yeah.
of one of those, like, I appreciate both. I guess I'm, as a consumer of reviews and stuff like that, I do tend to watch both. I'll watch the ACGs because he's usually somewhere between an IGN and a skill up. Skill ups will be on the
Yeah.
longer end, but I'll get more of some of the detail. And especially for somebody like that, if I've got like something like I'm walking the dog or something like that, and it's like his have been good if it's one where the visuals might spoil me, but he can do a lot with words. Those are actually kind of a good one for him to like go into some of the nitty gritty or the details about things and it can kind of fill some time. But on the other side, if you're like, all right, I need like less than 10 minutes, is this game good or not? So, I mean, IGN, you guys are very specifically built for that. So it is one of
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
that, but as you said, it's like it is your job to summarize. But there, I would just wonder, it's like his, Destiny 1 was like an hour long.
Yeah.
And it was like, but like I could see a Destiny review like for even you, I know is going to be succinct, but there's so many different depending on where you're coming from and stuff like that. Um, I can see the
Yeah.
Destiny one being longer, but also I can see like, but you appreciate when you can still consolidate it that much. So it's a
For sure.
talent to be able to shrink it down.
Yeah, to be clear, I understand where Skillup's coming from, and I think there's room for both.
Yeah,
I even think there's room for a tweet review for somebody who really doesn't have time, and if it's a maybe
can be
super
it's
casual
just a
audience.
number.
Yeah, just a number, right? Like that. IGN kind of does that with our summary and our number, right, at the end. But
Yeah,
to me, it's more just that like I'm probably shooting for a different type of reader slash viewer than a Skillup is. A Skillup wants his audience comes because they like those deep dives and they probably want to hear him talk forever, and they would be upset if he did just a 20-minute video. Uh, I think the IGN viewer is literally it's like the everyman gamer. They probably dive deep into certain games, but other games they're wondering if it's worth the time, and they're using our site to navigate
yeah.
the landscape. And so it's a very different type of reader, I think.
Like this is something you probably can't say is it's like confidential or whatever. I would be very curious your analytics of if you click on a review and then how like to know the scroll to the
Oh,
number. Like
I
what
can tell
is
you that. We have that data. Yeah, yeah. So
you're like
actually,
all 2,500 words. No, I read the 12 or like maybe 40 words in the red next to the number and I'm out. Like I can only imagine
yeah.
that
The
tracking.
analytics at the IGN site is pretty funny because if you have like an editor account on our site, it adds this bar to the top of every page that shows analytic data at a glance. And one of the things it has is viewers, unique viewers versus engaged viewers, and it tells you what the breakdown is percentage wise. and you can, and then it'll tell you like how many are engaged in this article versus the average article that week or that month. And so there's a lot of like interesting analytic things where whether it's resonating with people or if people are just commenting to scroll down to the bottom and make a mean comment or say something or just look at the review score. But typically, if they want to know the score, they actually don't click on the article. They just read the summary and they look at the number of the score that's in the
Oh, you guys
preview.
have started to
Yeah,
do that actually.
yeah,
That
yeah.
wasn't always there, so that's probably been,
Yeah,
I guess, a good and a bad.
it's a better idea. But yeah, the I would say the average IGN reviewer, at least on my stuff, because I only really check my articles. I just want to know
Yeah.
like how people are engaging. Or they're pretty engaged.
Nice.
They're pretty engaged.
What's the what's the old saying? If I had more time, I'd have written a shorter letter.
Right? That is 100% true. You have to work like twice as hard to get something like more succinct. So,
Yeah.
I would agree with that philosophy 100%. Yeah.
The number of times I look at my review scripts and then I just have to I do a control F for the word that, and 90% of the
Delete
time
it.
I delete. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I got pretty good at clipping that one out. I actually have. It's funny that we're talking about this because I'm doing another show tonight where we're talking about review philosophies. It's like a long form thing.
Oh, nice.
So this is kind of like me pre-gaming right now.
Oh, there you go.
But I actually challenge myself, and you can read any of my reviews and try to catch me on this. But I try to not include even one sentence in any of my reviews that does not contain an opinion.
Interesting.
Every sentence has to have opinion in it because my philosophy is a review is your opinion. You're just trying to get to the meat of, is this game good or bad? What about it did you like? What about it didn't you like? And if you're spending a lot of time explaining what the game is without providing opinion context, you're sort of wasting time with the review. And so I try to challenge myself to not even have one sentence without opinions. And if you read it, I challenge you. I'm pretty good about this. I'm sure a few have slipped in over the years, but I'm pretty good about literally never including a sentence that doesn't have some kind of opinionated statement or language to it. So,
Well,
I
as
might
I
steal that.
yeah, that's not bad.
cool.
Thank you, Zeno, for these $2 super chats. Thank you for your service, Critbuff. So appreciate
Oh,
that.
thank you, Zeno. I appreciate that.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As we still have you connected, want to give you a chance to wrap up, tell everybody where you can be found, what you're doing, you know, all that type of stuff.
Yes.
Basically, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So, gentlemen, again, thank you for having me on. You can find me on YouTube. Just do a search for Critbuff. You'll find the channel. I'm on Twitter, where I'm apparently a bit of a lightning rod. So, have fun with that. Same call sign.
Definitely, yeah. Go check out his Twitter. Give him a follow. Give him some support, some positivity in there is never a bad thing because Twitter has its moments. But definitely also go check out his YouTube videos. Very thought out reviews. 1,000 kills happened before that review. But he spent some time with it. So it's more than just looking at perk options. He's got a real opinion because he put in the work. So definitely check him out. Thank you very much, Critbuff, for joining us tonight. Very appreciated. Travis, what about you? Just more time in Xenoblade and see if you can get Iron Lord?
Yeah, right. So I did a preview of Xenoblade that came out last week, covering the combat system and what I think about it so far. As for now, that's all I'll be able to talk about it until July 26th, when my review comes out, which should be pretty contentious. People have very strong feelings about that game, myself included. And then I'm also previewing a game called Roller Drome that should also be live that same morning, July 26th.
Oh, wonderful timing. Gotta love that.
Timing. I'm also reviewing a game. Oh, I can't talk about that one, actually. It has not been announced. But I'm previewing another game that's going to get announced later this month. And yeah, I'm going to be on a show talking about review philosophy and what makes a good review with Ainsley Bowden on the Seasoned Gaming YouTube. I don't know if it's going to be live streamed, but that's literally happening right after this. I'm hopping from this call into that one. And so we should be on at 7 Pacific, so an hour from now at the latest. Yeah, so hop on that if you want to. And then you can also find me Sunday mornings on Bitcast, where I talk to a lawyer named Hogue, Ainsley Bowden himself, and the inspiration for the Scarecrow, Dan Rodriguez. So yeah, you can catch me there every Sunday if you'd like. That's me.
Awesome. Yeah, again, Crit, thank you for your service. Glad you get to kind of, as you said, you're in the twilight of your service, so you can kind of get back into the civilian light and hopefully back to some better internet. I mean, hey, if nothing else, if this is what you're dealing with gaming, you got to have some lag bots all over the place. So everybody probably thinks you're cheating, and finally you'll be able to call the others out if they are. So
if I was cheating my trials, Katie, we'd be better, and people couldn't try to stat shame me with it.
Hey, if you're playing the game, who cares? Yeah, I was like, who cares? I was like, I'm sure my KD is trash as well, but I don't do a whole lot. But if you have fun playing the game, it's fine. Nobody should care that much.
No, they shouldn't, but they do. It's
oh
funny.
yeah, of course. But yeah, that for me, I did actually wrap up both of those kind of side games I was working on. I'm trying to decide between Have a Nice Death. The opening to Have a Nice Death, I actually watched a YouTube video, just like I was doing one thing and watched the opening. That opening is so stylistically awesome and looks fun. I may have to play that one, but I'm also debating on Loopmancer since it just dropped, actually, just to get a little. I'm trying to put a couple smaller indie titles before I jump into something like Horizon, because that's definitely going to be another like 50-60 hour stream set, so that'll be a bit. But yeah, Cog should be back next week. Also next week, if you guys are this far into the show, might as well tell you who's coming. We've got Irresolute. I'm probably saying that wrong. But he
Fantastic
will be coming
artist.
on. Yes, actually, good artist, good player, so should be a fun chat. And then on the 28th, give you guys a little preview. We got Aztecross coming on the 28th. That one should be fun. And then little preview, I'm just going to say them fast. I got Stadia Time, Legionless TV, Professor Broman, Big Daddy Tej, and KYT Kucha from the Massive Breakdown. So we've got some good guests coming up. So yeah, I've got us lined up basically through September 1st, stacked. So
all-star roster, E. Congrats.
I'm doing the producer thing over here, so I'm trying my best.
Yeah, doing a good job.
But yes, again, thank you all for chat for being here. This was a fun one. Thank you for rolling with the technical difficulties. But Crit, thank you for taking time out of your vacation and leave to chat with us. We very much appreciate it. And again, very much thank you for your service. As we wrap up this show, as always, it is July 14th, episode number 206. And even though Cog's not here, I know he's doing it in spirit. It has been
the last word.